In the past 5 years, I healed myself from severe nerve damage even though every doctor told me that it would never heal. On top of that, I manifested myself into a financial position where I now make $20,000 a month, even though before my spiritual awakening, I was making less than $1,000 a month. And on top of that, I manifested myself into the most fulfilling relationship I've ever been in. And on top of that, I can confidently say that I spent thousands of hours studying the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I went to 3-week-long advanced retreats, which in total with all the hotels has cost me way more than $10,000. And I studied the works of Abraham Hicks and all kinds of other spiritual teachers. And during this time I discovered that there are so many so-called manifestation truths and facts that are nothing but myths. And even though as a German it's incredibly hard to pronounce the word myth correctly, I will do my best throughout this video, because in today's video I'm going to debunk the biggest manifestation myths to give you a completely new perspective on manifesting. And that's why in this video I reveal the 9 biggest manifestation myths that might be right now in this moment preventing you from manifesting the money, health and love you truly want, and what to do instead so that everything you want can come to you. The #1 misconception about Neville Goddard's feeling of the wish fulfilled that keeps so many people stuck in their limited realities, and proof that the relationship between the law of attraction and the law of assumption is not what 99% of people believe it is, and how it can set you free to manifest so much faster. The first manifestation myth I'm about to share with you is by far the most important to debunk for everyone who is manifesting with Neville Goddard's teachings. And when I think back to the year 2020, when I was suffering from severe nerve damage, when I was bedridden, when I didn't know if I would ever be healed, I had a very hard time to feel joy, even though spiritual teachers such as Abraham Hicks told me, joy is the key, joy, 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 joy. And all I was feeling was, oh God, I can't do it, I can't feel joy. Because I had many dark nights of the soul, many moments where I literally took the knife that I was using to cut potatoes and I was pointing it in my direction and I wanted to end it all. So how was I able to still feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled? Well, because back then I assumed that the feeling of the wish fulfilled meant that I had to be in this joyful, incredibly positive state. And this leads me to one of the biggest manifestation myths that so many people who study the work of Neville Goddard have. And that's the following myth: that the feeling of the wish fulfilled is an emotion. Because here's what Neville said: when I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. Which means that a calm and relaxed feeling of knowingness can be enough. It can be enough for you to step into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because here's what Neville Goddard says: in feeling is the secret. You remain calm and secure in the knowledge that the end has been perfectly defined. And because I studied the teachings of Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza, I am not against elevated emotions. I believe that elevated emotions are incredibly powerful when manifesting, and that they can send a signal to the subconscious mind so that it's easier for you to then feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When I go into the imaginal act, when I meditate, I love to feel the elevated emotions. But back then it gave me so much peace to know that it's not necessary. It's just like a delicious chocolate cake. It's a cherry on top of the chocolate cake. And even though I love elevated emotions and I love to feel the freedom, the joy, the abundance of the life that I want to create, if you're currently in a position where it's really hard for you to feel that joy, then start with that feeling of knowingness. Start with a feeling of calmness, a sense of relaxation, and then you can still add the elevated emotions, the easier it will get for you. Oh, and the next myth I'm about to share with you is painful. In fact, this is a myth that 99% of people are holding on to for dear life. They don't want to let it go. And the best way for me to describe this myth is with a story that Joe Dispenza shared. He once shared a story that a woman was storming on stage and wanted to speak to him back in the days when his events were still smaller and that was possible. And I don't remember if this woman wanted to live in San Diego or California, or if she wanted to live somewhere else in a state or in a city. I can't remember it. But the woman walking up to him, being angry and saying, "I'm doing the work. Why am I not living in San Diego yet?" And Joe Dispenza then said that he looked at her and he said, "Because the woman who lives in San Diego does look nothing like that." Boom, mic drop. That was a mic drop moment. So what does that mean for your manifestation success? This woman might have done the meditations every day, but she was not willing to do something that is so incredibly important, which is something that so many people are holding on to for dear life in the manifestation community, and that's the belief that meditating is enough and that changing yourself on a core fundamental level is not necessary. That it's all about meditation, it's all about feeling the feelings in the meditation, and that's it. And Joe Dispenza famously said, "Nothing changes in your life until you change." And this is the principle that I invite you to think of right now, because so many people try to go through the door to a new reality as the old self, but the old self cannot enter the door. The old self cannot go through that door into the new reality. Only the new self can do that. Which means that if you affirm all day long, but you look in the mirror and you see somebody who's broke, then you cannot enter the new reality of being wealthy. Which also means that if you're currently suffering from a health issue, if you look in the mirror and you see somebody who's broken, even though you say to yourself all day long, I'm healthy, but you're just not feeling it, then you cannot arrive in this new reality. And that's why we have to do what Neville Goddard describes in these words. Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. The only reason why I was able to heal my body was because every day I stepped into the self-concept of somebody who is whole. And the only reason why I was able to go from making less than $1,000 a month to making well over $20,000 a month was because I stepped into the self-concept of somebody who is rich and wealthy. But how do you do it? The first step is to realize what your self-concept actually is, because your self-concept is the combination of your beliefs, your perceptions, and your expectations of yourself, of others, and the world around you. And you can change it by taking an honest look into the mirror and by asking yourself, what do you see in the mirror? Because here's what Neville Goddard said. Man's attempt to change the world by force is as fruitless as breaking a mirror in the hope of changing his face. Leave the mirror and change your face. Leave the world alone and change your conceptions of yourself. The reflection then will be satisfactory. So define your self-concept as if you are a screenwriter for a big Hollywood blockbuster movie and you think about the main protagonist in the movie. And that's your new self. And this can be your whole self, it can be your abundant self, and really go as deep as you can into the way you walk, the way you think, the way you believe, the way you look at yourself in the mirror, the way you express yourself. And in week number 3 of my 8-week one-on-one coaching program, the Abundance Reality Shift Coaching Program, we're going to dive deep into creating your abundant self-concept. And for the next manifestation myth that I want to share with you, my German brain calculated within 1 millisecond that there is a 97.58% chance that you're using affirmations completely wrong. And I actually dabbled in affirmations way before my spiritual awakening, but because before my spiritual awakening in the year 2020, I was only making less than $1,000 a month with my one struggling business, I can confidently say that affirmations back then didn't work for me at all, because of one of the biggest myths that is nowadays swirling around in even more brains than a couple of years ago. Because nowadays robotic affirmations got really popular, and the way everybody's doing robotic affirmations is like this: I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. And that's why I can confidently say that my clients and I are using robotic affirmations differently than most people. Because most people just repeat them as if they are German robots. And because I'm a German robot, I can confidently say that this doesn't work. But the way I do it and the way my clients do it is to feel the affirmations while we speak them. Because even Neville Goddard said that vain repetition without a change in consciousness does not lead to any results. And you can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times. Yes, it will penetrate your conscious mind, but unless you combine the affirmation with the feeling of already having what you want, it will not go into the subconscious mind, and therefore there will be no change in consciousness. And in Prayer, the Art of Believing, Neville Goddard said, many of us, either from too little emotion or too much intellect, both of which are stumbling blocks in the way of prayer, cannot believe that which our senses deny. To force ourselves to believe will end in greater doubt. So don't let anybody tell you that emotions don't matter when affirming, even if you're using robotic affirmations. And without me debunking the next manifestation myth, you will only torture yourself. And you might end up like me at the beginning of my manifestation journey, because I was obsessed with instant manifestations. I mean, I watched these YouTube videos of manifest this in 5 minutes and this in 1.2 seconds, and then even Joe Dispenza on one of the advanced retreats shared a story where he desired bread and bread was literally falling from the sky. And yes, the same can happen with money. Do I believe that instant manifestations are possible? Yes, definitely. I've experienced them multiple times in my life. But do they always happen? Nope. And that's the important realization, because a lot of people who start manifesting, they feel like failures when their manifestations don't show up in a certain time frame, and this time frame is often overnight. And while instant manifestations can show up very fast, it can sometimes take a while for the bridge of incidents to be built. You have to think about it. The universe is doing the best work the universe can do. They are doing a great job. They are working hard for you so that the bridge of incidents can be built and you can walk over that bridge right to the abundance and to the manifestation you desire. But the bridge of incidents is not always built overnight, and that's why Neville Goddard said the following words in Awakened Imagination. What you desire to hear without, you must hear within. Embrace the without within and become one who hears only that which implies the fulfillment of his desire. And all the external happenings in the world will become a bridge leading to the objective realization of your desire. And yes, sometimes the bridge of incidents gets built really fast and the first signs and synchronicities are flowing to you. But imagine if the universe wants to provide you with the perfect business idea. And the best way for the universe to provide you with this idea is to get you together with somebody who shares this idea with you. But at the moment, this person is out of town and you have to wait, without you knowing it, for another 5 days or 6 days or maybe even 2 weeks to meet this person. I mean, in this situation, the universe will give you the opportunity to meet the right person, but you have to be patient. And the bridge of incidents is built by mixing signs, synchronicities, direct downloads, and opportunities into one of the strongest concretes you can possibly imagine so that you can walk over this bridge. But sometimes it can take 1 day or 1 week or 1 month for the bridge of incidents to be so strong that you can walk over it directly to your desired manifestation. After having realized that the bridge of incidents can take more than a day to build, there is another myth that you absolutely must become aware of. And it has to do with something that I realized on my manifestation journey right in the beginning. And thankfully I realized it fast, because for over a decade before my spiritual awakening, I was working 10 to 12 hours every day. I was completely exhausted, and the universe knew that I needed a wake-up call. But then, thankfully, I had my wake-up call. I had my spiritual awakening, even though back then it was very painful, but nowadays I'm incredibly thankful for it. And I then realized, and I promised myself, I made a vow, a strong vow, that I would never go back to the old self. I would never again go back to the old stressed self of working 10 to 12 hours a day and being completely exhausted, which then led me directly to one of the biggest manifestation myths. And that's that manifesting on the one side and taking action on the other side are the absolute opposite. That's the trap I fell into, because just like so many noble movements in this world, sometimes these noble movements can go from one extreme to the other extreme, and that's exactly what I did. And in Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville Goddard says the following words: "No quality so separates man from man as does the disciplined imagination. This is the separation of the wheat from the chaff. Those who have given most to society are our artists, scientists, inventors, and others with vivid imaginations." Now ask yourself for a moment, what does the artist have to do in order to become abundant with his or her art? The artist has to create the painting. The artist can't simply stand in front of the painting, or let's say in front of the blank canvas, and say, "Universe, paint for me. Universe, paint this picture." And the universe then says, "This is not my job, this is your job. I gave you all the ideas. Paint for F's sake." And what does the scientist have to do? Right after the universe provides the scientist with a direct download that leads him or her to the most amazing idea of his or her career, well, the scientist has to go to the laboratory and test the idea. And what does the inventor have to do when the universe, through a coincidental meeting, builds the bridge of incidence for him or her so that they have the insight that they need to create the product that they've always wanted to create and that will lead to the abundance that they wish to have? They need to create the product. You can't simply scream at the universe, "Universe, create the product for me," because that is your job. The universe's job is to build the bridge of incidence for you and to bring you to a point where you can easily and effortlessly get all the ideas, all the signs, all the synchronicities, all the direct downloads that then lead you to your abundance, but you still have to take inspired action. So before my spiritual awakening, I was only focusing on the physical realm because I wasn't even aware of the mental and spiritual realm, which means I was working 10 to 12 hours a day, I was overworking myself, and I was barely getting by, making $1,000 a month and often even less. But what happened right after my spiritual awakening, and thankfully I made this realization quite fast, is that I only focused on the mental and spiritual realm, and I completely ignored the physical realm because I thought, okay, if I take action, then this means that I am not spiritual, it is not manifesting. But thankfully, Dr. Joe Dispenza then opened my eyes that inspired action is absolutely okay. And that's why I invite you to step into your new self-concept and to, of course, first create it in your imagination, to create the new you mentally in the mental realm, and to then go into the imaginal act and to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled in the spiritual realm. And then when the bridge of incidence is built for you with all the signs, all the synchronicities, all the serendipities, to then take inspired action in a way that makes things so easy and that puts you into this flow state that now allows me to work 3 times less and to make 20 times the money that I used to make before my spiritual awakening. And the next manifestation myth that I'm about to share with you does not only prevent your manifestation from showing up, but it might also lead to a heart attack or other health issues. So make sure that you open your eyes to debunking this myth. Because when I embarked on my manifestation journey, I was worried, I had doubt, I had fears. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid that I wasn't able to pay my rent. I was afraid that I would never be healed. I was afraid that you can insert anything you want to insert here, because I was afraid of everything. And even the universe said, "Stop being so afraid, you little wussy." And the reason why I was so afraid and so fearful was because I didn't know when my manifestation would show up, and I had no clue how it would show up. In other words, I wanted control. I wanted to control the outcome. I wanted to control how the manifestation comes to me. But in order for you to successfully manifest, you have to let go. You have to let go of the control. You have to let go of this obsession with how it will come to you, because the bridge of incidents will be built for you. Don't worry about it. The universe will build the bridge of incidents. Your job is to control how often you meditate a day, how often you go into the imaginal act, how much you immerse yourself into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But you don't control how the manifestation will come to you. That's why Neville Goddard describes it like this in meditation: the joyful art of persistence. All that meditation amounts to is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention. Simply hold the attention on a certain idea until it fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. But if you try to control how the manifestation will come to you, you are limiting yourself and you are limiting your ability to manifest. And that's exactly what I did in the beginning of my manifestation journey. I was so focused on making the money that I wanted to make with this one struggling business I had that I was driving myself crazy. And if I had only sooner opened my eyes to the reality that there are so many potentials, an infinite number of potentials, so many opportunities for me, so many business ideas out there. And once I said, universe, I'm okay with you bringing me the money however it is right for me and however it might come to me, that's when all the direct downloads, all the business ideas, all the opportunities for new companies, new products were coming to me. So the lesson here is to not outsmart the universe. Always remember, we as human beings, we might have read a few books, but the universe is the whole library, and the universe knows exactly how your manifestation can come to you in the easiest and best way. The next manifestation myth I want to share with you is by far the most controversial one, and it's the one that I get attacked for the most. And that's why I now invite you to picture yourself at the gym. And I invite you for a moment to think about what will happen if you are trying to, for example, bench press 100 times the amount of your current fitness level. You would most likely injure yourself and you would walk out of the gym like this. Ouch! So why does that happen? It happens because you haven't built the necessary manifestation muscles yet. And the only way for you to build your manifestation muscles is by, well, practicing manifesting. Just like you practice the bench press or biceps curls at the gym, and you get stronger and better over time. And that's why so many people give up manifesting. They give in to these clickbait titles that promise them to be a billionaire overnight or to manifest 5 million overnight. And then they feel like a failure when they can't do it, even though they haven't built their manifestation muscles at all. And yes, for somebody who's already very abundant, the next level of abundance might just seem like a little step. But for somebody who is not abundant at all, the same step might seem completely unreachable. And that's why I invite you to train your manifestation muscle and to realize that the better you get at manifesting, the more you put into practice, the easier it will be for you to manifest a lot of money. And if you don't train your manifestation muscle well, then no money will flow to you. And this leads me to the next manifestation myth, and that's that you can manifest any amount and any state, no matter your current manifestation fitness level. Because, well, Abraham Hicks famously said that it takes the same amount of effort to manifest a castle as it takes to manifest a button. And yes, I believe that, at least if you've already manifested a mansion before. But let's face it, if I in the beginning of my manifestation journey would have set myself the goal to go immediately from making less than $1,000 a month to making more than $20,000 a month, I would have not possibly believed that it's actually possible for me. And now I mentioned the word possible 2 times, but anyway, I would have not believed that it's possible for me. You might be different. Maybe you're right now stuck at $1,000 a month, and for you, the goal of $20,000 a month is, yeah, it's doable. You think like, yeah, I can manifest that. I can do it. But for me, I personally had to train my manifestation muscle more. And that's the case for so many people who then give up because the difference between their current reality and their desired reality is so high, and they set this difference so high because of all these people who tell them that they can be a billionaire overnight, that they give up in the first place. That's why on my journey, I slowly climbed the ladder. I mean, not that slowly, but I climbed the ladder of abundance from 1,000 a month to 3,000 and to 6,000 and to 10,000. Then once I had reached 10,000, I knew, hey, I can double it again. I mean, I've already tripled it and quadrupled it, so that's easy. Then I reached 20,000, and now I'm at this point where I say, hey, the 30,000 is also easily reachable. I mean, these are all things that will happen to you naturally once you climb the ladder of abundance. And that's why my advice is, when it comes to manifesting money, to choose a number that is high enough to give you a faster heartbeat. I mean, not that fast that you get a heart attack, but that makes you excited, but not so high that you cannot possibly conceptualize it, that you cannot possibly believe it, that you cannot possibly give yourself the opportunity to actually manifest it. So at least with 1% of your body, of your being, you should believe that the goal that you set yourself is reachable, it's possible, and that's the sweet spot. And now we have to talk about a manifestation myth for which I will probably get tarred and feathered in the comment section. So yes, for this manifestation myth, there might be a ruthless battle in the comment section, we will see. Because now I want to talk about the law of attraction versus the law of assumption. And back when I started out on my journey of manifesting in the year 2020, everybody and their grandmother and also their grandfather was talking about the law of attraction. But then suddenly there was a new kid on the block. And the new kid on the block was introduced by the teachings of Neville Goddard that got more and more popular, and this new kid is called law of assumption. And the biggest myth around the law of assumption and the law of attraction is that they are so incredibly different, but instead they are actually twins. And yes, I know every other manifestation coach tries to convince you that they are so different, and they do this because, well, they want to set themselves apart and they want to say, no, I'm not manifesting with the law of attraction, I am using the law of assumption. But just because you paint stripes on a horse doesn't mean that it's a zebra, it's still a horse. And manifesting still works in the same universal way. The laws of the universe don't simply change because Herbert and Manfred now say, we no longer use the law of attraction, we use the law of assumption. The truth is that they are basically the same. And I know that this is a very controversial statement to make, but here's what I discovered on my own journey. The law of attraction says that positive thoughts bring you positive experiences, and here's what Neville Goddard said in his lecture Mental Diets. What is your aim? Does your inner talking match it? It must, if you would realize your aim. He also says the following words: a man's mental conversations attracts his life. As long as there is no change in his inner talking, the personal history of the man remains the same. To attempt to change the world before we change our inner talking is to struggle against the very nature of things. The same principle applies. Positive thoughts create positive outcomes. you changing your mental diet changes your reality. And while Joe Dispenza, with his law of attraction-based teachings, invites us to create a clear image of our future to send the signal out into the field, Neville Goddard, who is law of assumption-based, mentions the imaginal act. And the law of attraction emphasizes the importance of vibration and of feeling the emotions, and Joe Dispenza even says that we have to feel the elevated emotions in order to draw what we want to us. But now you might be saying, hold on for a moment, Neville Goddard doesn't talk about emotions. And yes, Neville Goddard clarifies that by feeling, it is not meant an emotion when it comes to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, just like he described in this quote. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. But he then continues to say, feeling grateful, fulfilled, or thankful, it is easy to say thank you, isn't it wonderful, or it is finished. Gratitude, fulfillment, thankfulness, I actually looked at different sources, including from the American Association of Psychology. And the truth is that all kinds of different sources either label them as feelings or as emotions or as both. And you might still say that Neville Goddard never mentions the importance of emotions. But here's what he says in The Power of Awareness. In these mental journeys, an emotional continuity must be sustained, the emotion of fulfilled desire. And here's what Neville said in Feeling is the Secret. Your body is an emotional filter and bears the unmistakable marks of your prevalent emotions. Emotional disturbances, especially suppressed emotions, are the causes of all disease. Doesn't that sound oddly familiar to what Joe Dispenza says about how our thoughts and emotions are making us sick? I mean, there were even people who emailed me once I started my YouTube channel who told me that the teachings from Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza cannot be combined. But I confidently disagree, because the only reason why I was able to manifest $500,000 and to heal my body was because I combined the teachings of Neville Goddard with the meditations and also the teachings from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Or have a look at what Neville says in Out of This World. If we could become as emotionally aroused over our ideals as we become over our dislikes, we would ascend to the plane of our ideal as easily as we now descend to the level of our hates. We simply can't deny that emotions play a huge part in the law of assumption-based teachings from Neville Goddard. But now let's compare one more aspect. Let's do one more comparison. The law of attraction says that you attract what you think, feel, and speak into existence. The law of attraction also says that this triangle of thoughts, feelings, and affirmations make up who you are. Doesn't that sound oddly familiar to the process that Neville Goddard describes as changing your self-concept? Because Neville Goddard says this about thoughts and feelings. Try to notice what you are saying in yourself at this moment, to what thoughts and feelings you are consenting. In The Feeling is the Secret, he even says this: mastery of self-control of your thoughts and feelings is your highest achievement. And now you might be saying, but wait, Sebastian, the law of assumption does not talk about signs and synchronicities. Well, I hate to break it to you, but Neville Goddard's law of assumption-based teachings reveal exactly this. He just calls it the bridge of incidence, and that's why he said this in The Law and the Promise. That imaginal activity of living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled leads man across a bridge of incidence to the fulfillment of the dream. In his lecture Live in the End, Neville Goddard even said the following words: if you tell them it came to pass because you simply imagined it, no, they will point to the series of events that led up to it, and they will give credit to the bridge of incidents across which you walked towards the fulfillment of that state, and they will point out some physical thing that was the cause. These are the exact signs and synchronicities that every law of attraction coach talks about. I rest my case. And now that we jump into the last manifestation myth that I want to share with you, I have a very important question for you. Imagine for a moment you hit your little toe on a chair. How do you react? Is your first reaction, while you have pain running throughout your body, "Thank you, universe, thank you that I just hit my toe on the chair, this feels so good"? Or is your first reaction more like this? "God damn it, oh God, why?" Most likely, it's more like the second reaction. And here we come to an important manifestation myth, one that can set you free, one that can make you finally relax. One of the biggest manifestation myths is that as soon as you have one negative thought or one negative emotion, one negative image in your mind, your manifestation will crumble into little pieces and you're forever doomed. Bum, 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 bum. And this is something that makes so many creators paranoid, that as soon as they have one little tiny negative belief, a tiny negative thought or some emotion in this moment, and that then the manifestation will no longer materialize. But the truth is that if you go into the imaginal act, if you change via stepping into the self-concept, if you feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you do that more and more, and in the beginning you might have 90% of negative thoughts and only 10% positive thoughts, but it's shifting more and more until you're 70, 80, 90% in alignment with your abundant future, with your whole future, with your loving future. Then these few negative thoughts and beliefs and emotions don't really matter that much. You're positive, life-affirming, in alignment with abundance and with what you want to manifest, thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are then way more powerful than this tiny negative part here. And then your manifestation can still materialize with divine timing in the right way for you. The bridge of incidents can be built for you, and you can enjoy your new life. So if every now and then there's a negative thought or a negative emotion, your manifestation won't just crumble into pieces. You just have to be careful that you don't dwell on it, because here's what Neville Goddard said. If you dwell on difficulties, barriers, or delay, the subconscious, by its very non-selective nature, accepts the feeling of difficulties and obstacles as your request and proceeds to produce them in your outer world. And according to Oxford Languages, the official definition of to dwell on it is think, speak, or write at length about a particular subject, especially one that is a source of unhappiness, anxiety, or dissatisfaction. And of course, we are still human beings, and as human beings, we react all the time. That's something that Joe Dispenza even said. He said, "I react all the time, but it depends on how long you react." And by you acknowledging that, yes, right now in this moment, this might be a negative thought, but I can accept that it's there, I can acknowledge it, and then I can let it go. And the next time I focus again on a more positive thought. And by you practicing that, you will get better and better at it. And every now and then, yes, some negative thought or negative emotion might sneak in, but that's okay, because the majority of your thoughts, the majority of your emotions will be in perfect alignment with your manifestation. And if you're ready to create a life full of abundance and wealth, then I invite you to click on the first link in the description, or to go to affirmation2manifestation.com/abundance to find out more about my 8-week Abundance Reality Shift coaching program. And remember how I told you that I already manifested $500,000? If you click on this video and you watch it till the very end, then you can find out exactly how I did it.